Hello and welcome to my kitchen. Today we are making cannellini bean and kale soup. It's one of those like meals I made a long time ago and I really liked because it's just a good meal for a cold day. And today is absolutely freezing outside. It is 20 degrees outside. I just went for a walk with my dog and he is sleeping in the corner over there and he is very sound asleep. So I just want to make this meal. This is really good. This is my first video and so I want to kind of like walk everyone through what we're gonna do on this channel, but we're gonna get started cooking as we go. These are all the ingredients that you need. You need a little bit of veggie broth. So veggie broth is the first thing. We're gonna need about 6 cups of that. Some salt, obviously. Got a little salt in my salt well. Whatever you call these things. I don't know what people usually call these things. I call it a salt well. You're gonna need some cannellini beans. We're gonna talk about those in a bit. You're going to need some nutritional yeast, a vegan or plant-based special, some marjoram. Marjoram? Is marjoram the right way to say it? Crushed red pepper. You're going to need some bay leaves, 2 bay leaves, some miso. We're going to talk about this one too because this was a hard one to find. Some kale. My kale is a little yellow. It's been sitting in my fridge for like 4 days. That's okay. I think we'll be fine. We need some parsley, some nice beautiful parsley. 1 red onion, 3 cloves of garlic, and a beautiful sweet potato. Those are the ingredients that we're gonna need for this recipe. And we're just gonna get started and I'm gonna talk you guys through what we do, or what we're gonna do on this channel, because this channel is gonna be a little bit different from a normal cooking channel. So the first thing, we're just gonna heat our pan. Pan. We're gonna heat our pot. And we're gonna just dump in about a cup of veggie broth. I don't think it matters significantly what kind of veggie broth you get. You can use chicken broth for this. I am gonna eyeball this first of all. I eyeball pretty much everything. That looks about a cup. We're gonna keep this because we're gonna need this. Yeah, I eyeball most things in the kitchen, unless like, you know, baking. Baking is a little bit more precise than cooking, I think. Maybe I'm totally wrong, that leads me into this point. For this channel, I don't know a ton about cooking. I'm like an adept chef. I can cook a decent meal. And when people that I love eat it, they're like, oh yeah, it's very good. It doesn't really blow them out of the water. It's not like this incredible thing that they're eating. And I would like to get really good. I've thought about taking culinary classes. I've thought about taking courses at like a school or something like that, but I've never really had any success. I live in an area that I could go. I live right outside of New York City. I could go into New York City to take some classes, but it's just a huge commitment. It's already getting really warm. We're gonna turn it a little lower because we haven't even made our onion or sliced our onion yet, diced our onion yet. So this is what I want to do for this channel. I am gonna walk through a whole entire meal prep and I want you guys to sit back and just critique me on everything. Because this is what I want my culinary class to be, my culinary experience. I want to teach you guys some things that I know about, some things that I've cooked, but I also want people in the comments to just talk to me about all the things that I'm doing wrong or all the things that they think would be better. One thing that I would love is to know the chemistry of cooking. That's one thing that I really would love to figure out. Like the art of cooking, the chemistry of cooking, what flavors interact. I don't really know that yet. And so that's kind of the goal of this, is just to become a better chef. And then one day maybe cook for like, you know, Gordon Ramsay. Invite him into my little dirty apartment and cook him a meal. We'll see. But we're just gonna dice this onion. And one thing that I always like to have, just for convenience factor for me, is I will always take a bowl, because I don't want to be doing everything over the trash can over here. I will just take a bowl, put it right by my cutting board, and we use this as a garbage bowl. I think of Rachel Ray. I used to watch cooking videos with my mom every once in a while, and Rachel Ray would always have a garbage bowl. I think a lot of chefs had that. Maybe it was just easier for TV or something like that. But we're gonna peel. Sometimes I just peel the first layer of an onion just because it's easier. I don't want to peel like the skin, because sometimes, I don't know, maybe this is for you as well, but the first layer of an onion sometimes tastes a little peel-y. So sometimes I just get rid of that. Like right here. There's like extra peel in this first layer. So I could just chop that off, but sometimes I just peel the whole thing off Maybe it's a little wasteful, but who cares? I think it's all right to be wasteful sometimes. We're gonna take this whole entire onion. This is a pretty massive onion, red onion. Like that's another thing too. Like I would love to know, like I know the taste difference between a red onion and a white onion, or which would maybe just be called a normal onion. But I want to know like why people use red onions versus white onions. Like all those are, you could substitute those, I'm sure. But all that stuff, I'm very curious about that stuff. So we're just gonna slice all this up. I slice my onions, dice my onions. What is the difference between slicing and dicing? That's another thing. I slice my onions like pretty much every other person in the world slices theirs. You dice them down like this. You cut them in the middle like that. And then you just do this. I use a little bit of the claw method. I'm not very good at it, but my knife skills need a lot of work. But this is one of those warm meals. It's like very cozy. It's one of those meals that has just a lot of like heat. We're gonna add our crushed red pepper flakes, which is gonna give it that heat and that like extra zing, like that extra like tang, not tang is the wrong word, actually that extra flavor to it. So here are my red crushed red peppers. Here's my red onion. If you have a sharp knife, it doesn't sting your eyes too much. But I get a little bit of juice flowing in the environment right here. I'm crying a little bit. This is one of those things too. When I first learned how to cook, I used to dump my red onion or my white onion, whatever onion I was using first. I used to dump that in, and then I would dump my garlic in with it. And I was just in a debate with someone about this, but I don't do that. I don't do the garlic until the last step. Like before I'm about to do everything else, this is essentially like a saute. And so I'm kind of gonna leave these in the pot for about 5 minutes. Let them kind of release some of their juices, let them do their work. They're just sitting in this veggie broth there too. And then in the meantime, some people would put their garlic in with that. I'm not gonna put my garlic in with that. I'm gonna take my garlic and then do it after. So that's gonna sit there for about 5 minutes. And then I'm gonna take my garlic, I'm gonna mince my garlic, and then we are in business. You know, everyone says the more garlic, the better. This is what people do a lot of times with garlic. I don't know anybody who just peels it like that. That's ridiculous. So some people crush their garlic and peel it. I don't do that. I twist my garlic. The skin falls right off, and then I don't mince it with a knife. Maybe that's terrible of me, but I have I have this just because it's incredibly helpful. So this is what we do. We kind of just twist back and forth a little bit. That unfortunately happens sometimes. We break it, but then we have this nice little whole piece of garlic. And the reason that I do that is because my grater is very dull. And I keep it for the sole reason that it's a very, very good mincer. And it doesn't get my fingers. I know that they have those like contraptions that you can put over your fingers, like almost like gloves, that can keep your fingers from dying if you're trying to mince stuff like that, or if you're trying to grate stuff like that. But this is perfect. I'll show you what I mean. So I take that, I have a very, very not sharp grater, and I will just take some garlic and I will just grate it. I'm not touching my fingers yet. It's just essentially sliding through my fingers until it just gets right to the end, touches my fingers a tiny bit, and then I stop, throw a little bit of the leftover or the rest in my garbage bowl. And I just do that with all my garlic, and it's a much quicker way to mince it. I hate mincing with a knife. I don't know, maybe that's terrible cooking, but I hate mincing garlic with a knife because it just takes so long. And I don't want to buy that store-bought minced stuff either. I don't know why I have something against that, but it just doesn't feel, I like fresh, you know? So we're just gonna take all of our garlic. This recipe essentially calls for 3 pieces of garlic, but you can use more, you can use less. I don't know anybody who likes less garlic. Maybe you do though, which is fine. You do you. So we're just gonna take our garlic, continue to mince it. I have 4 pieces. I have 3 large pieces and like a smaller piece. This one's a really big one. mince it. It almost looks mashed a little bit, which is, you know, kind of fine. Look at that. We have a beautiful little bit of minced garlic right there, which I think looks fantastic. So we're gonna take that, we're gonna continue to let our red onions saute a little bit in this pan. Again, I don't know if this terminology is correct. I don't know if they're sauteing right now, but they're slowly releasing some juices. The veggie broth's working its wonder in there. We're gonna take all of this garlic and in 1 second, we are gonna dump it all in. We're gonna let it sit just for about a minute. We don't want our garlic to burn. So we're gonna let it sit for about a minute. Give us that nice garlicky smell in the entire apartment. And then we're gonna dump in the rest of our ingredients. Not the rest of our ingredients, but the majority of our ingredients. Let me dump out my garbage bowl. It's nice to keep a fresh garbage bowl. All right, so our onions are looking good. I don't want them to wear down that much. We're just gonna take our garlic now. Just pop our garlic right in there. And stir it around. Trying to get that garlic to the bottom of the pot. Just so it can cook just a little bit. You don't want it to burn. Burned garlic does taste a little bitter, as most people know. So we have that going. We're just gonna let that sit. I'm gonna continue to just stir it. Whenever my garlic's in there, I always just like to stir it as much as I can. Those onions are really getting to me. It's so beautiful. All right. That is about a minute. Then what we're gonna do is we have our veggie broth. We have 2 veggie broths here. We're gonna take 1.5 of them. So we already dumped in a cup. I'm going to dump in the rest. There's about 4 cups in one of these containers of veggie broth, or, you know, again, if you're using chicken broth or you're using bone broth or beef broth or whatever you're using, there's generally about 4 cups in one of these. 4 serving sizes per container. Serving size is 1 cup. There you go. So we're just doing 2.5. And again, I am just eyeballing this because, I mean, I have time to measure, but that's about 6 cups. I think that's good enough. So we have that. We're gonna let that come to a boil. And in the meantime, we are gonna peel this sweet potato. I'm just checking these cameras. I'm all new to this, so, you know, just checking to make sure these cameras are rolling still. Because that would suck if I did this whole entire thing and the cameras weren't rolling. I always just peel over the trash can. I don't want to peel on my cutting board and get all this gristle on there, you know? So just peeling 1 sweet potato. That's all it needs. I mean, every recipe that I have and that I'm going to do is somewhat adaptable. So if you like sweet potato, put more sweet potato in. I'm not going to do that much red chili flakes because, you know, I have a very tame palate. But if you like chili flakes, put a bunch of chili flakes in there. So we're going to dice this. And it's going to be like 1 inch to 1/2 inch wedges or cuts or whatever they're going to be. Maybe like 1/2 inch right there. Some are 1 inch, some are 1/2 inch. You generally want them all around the same length or size because then they all cook kind of the same. So I'm trying to keep an eye on that, trying to keep them pretty much all around the same size. If I see one that's like a little bigger, like this one, I'll probably just cut it in half. Doesn't matter that much though. Generally they all cook kind of the same, I think. Again, maybe I'm totally wrong about that. So let me know in the comments if you think that I'm way out of my league for that. But let's just chop these little bad boys up. So we got that, and then one more 1/4 or 1/4. And this one I miscut a little bit, so I'm just gonna cut a little thinner on each side just to give it a little bit of oomph. dumping this straight in. Everything just going straight in the pot. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get this to a boil, and then we are going to let it sit on a little bit lower heat for about 30 minutes. And I'm not gonna make you watch that for 30 minutes, don't worry. We'll expedite the process. The only thing that I'm not gonna put in right now is the parsley, the cannellini beans, the nutritional yeast, the miso, a lot. But we're gonna have to put the bay leaves in. We want 2 bay leaves in this. It's not a good bay leaf. Bay leaves are strange, are really strange to me. Let me find 2 good ones. Like, I don't know exactly what they contribute. A lot of ingredients that or a lot of recipes that I have me using bay leaves, which I'm curious if I would make, maybe one day I'll make this soup with and without bay leaves and just taste the difference. Because sometimes I think this is a hoax. But, you know, it's probably not a hoax. It's probably great. This is also my kale. We want to throw our kale in now. My kale, again, has some yellow little bits on it because it's been in my fridge for 4 days. I think that's okay. You know, your kale doesn't need to be perfect. Like, this is a perfect little stalk of kale. This is another thing that people do. I see, I don't mind so much the stalk of it. The stalk of it's not that bad to me, but I'm not really in the mood for the stalk right now. So if you want, you can chop it with the stalk in there. You know, it's not that bad. But I'm just gonna de-stalk these to some degree. I'm not gonna like go crazy over it, but I just want the leaves. And I'm gonna kind of not finely chop these, but chopping around the same length as my sweet potatoes. You generally want about 5 cups of kale. So that's going to give us a perfect amount of little crunch to this. It's gonna be delicious. You might be looking at me chopping this right now and thinking you are going to chop your fingers off. If that's the case, give me some advice on how to chop better. I'm learning, trying to get better in my chopping and my knife skills, but it takes some time. I probably just could have chopped all this together, but sometimes I like a slow, deliberate process, you know? You know what I mean? You don't have to rush in the kitchen. Just checking each one is, you know, somewhat fresh and doesn't have mold just chilling on it. Again, I'm not gonna exactly measure 5 cups. I'm gonna look at this. Right now, I think that's maybe about 4 cups. I'm just gonna use kind of the rest of this because I do like kale. So again, if you like a certain ingredient, add a little bit more of it in your soup. Sometimes these things are just meant to be personalized and experimented. So I'm gonna do one more. I don't wanna use this one. This one, I don't know why. I just don't wanna use a little bit of kale. This is the last one we're gonna use. Chop this up. Bada bing, bada boom. All right, we're gonna dump this in as well. Probably more than 5 cups, but that's okay. Maybe it's 6 cups. Dumping all this in there. It'll go down. It'll kind of like wilt a little bit. So we want to mix that in. Real nice. They get really green. They change colors as soon as they get into like hot fluid. So my kale just went from like, you know, light green to very, very rich green. It's a pretty cool change. The last thing that we're gonna throw in with this preliminary throw is our crushed red pepper or red pepper flakes. I'm a weenie when it comes to a ton of heat, so I'm not gonna dump in that much. I'm just gonna dump in just enough just to give a little bit of kick, but not a ton of kick. Sometimes some people I have a few friends who really, really love heat and really, really love spice. So we'll go to like a wing joint and they will have the hottest flavor imaginable and they're sweating when they eat and they're like, oh yeah, I enjoy it. This is so great. And in my head, I'm going, you're not enjoying your meal. Some people just love heat. I'm not one of those people. I don't mind it. I can definitely do it. But like if I'm having it, I want to like be able to taste my food rather than just taste the heat. But that's just me. Maybe I just haven't encountered like, the greatest heat or spice. I'm also really pasty, so that contributes to my lack of being able to take and tolerate heat. I'm just gonna clean my cutting board. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna let all that sit. It's boiling now. I'm just gonna turn it down to like medium low. Okay, now I have it on 4 or like 5. We're gonna keep that on there for 30 minutes. So I will see you back. I'll see you back in 30 minutes. Do I need to do anything else before we take a break? No, I think we're good. All right, I'll see you back in 30 minutes. Wait, everyone, I lied. Before we adjourn, your beans need to go on as well. This is one thing I want to talk about. I find it really hard to find cannellini beans. You can kind of use any beans that you want in this recipe. I think most recipes that I use cannellini beans. I really love cannellini beans. They're like very creamy. They just add a lot of good taste to a recipe. But you're supposed to add 1 can of it. I don't know why, but I find it really difficult to find cans of cannellini beans. What I did was I just took like a bag of dried cannellini beans and I just boiled it. So I have, an extra 2 cups of cannellini beans in there. But I don't know, do you have a difficulty trying to find cannellini beans, like a can of cannellini beans? And then for those of you, what is the difference between a good can of cannellini beans and dried cannellini beans that I'm making on my own? Does anybody taste a significant difference between the two? Because this is like, not the first time that I've done this with cannellini beans, but I don't know if there's a significant taste difference. Those definitely need to boil though. They're a little hard. Maybe I just didn't let them soak enough. But yeah, that's the last step. Now we're gonna let that sit for about like 25-ish minutes. So I'll see you soon. All right, well, after just sitting on my phone for about 20 minutes while this was simmering, it's time to get back and finish this recipe. There's a few things I want to talk about with it as well. So the first thing we're gonna do, as we talk about it, we're just gonna take a little bit of the broth of this. I should have done that in a different way. I probably should have ladled that in. Oh well. I'll just clean the outsides. It doesn't matter that much. I'm just gonna wash this cutting board after. And then we're gonna take this. This is miso. Now, there's different kinds of miso. I don't think there's a significant taste difference between all of them. This is, okay, so I was looking for white miso in my farmer's market. Couldn't find any. And then this was something called, they say this is miso kin jirushi. I don't know if there's a difference. I don't know if that's like just the Korean or the Chinese way to say miso, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't really know. So we're just gonna take a little bit of this, just like probably like a tablespoon. And then we're gonna put it into our little broth thing that we just took there. I'm just gonna let it warm up and then we're gonna stir it in and then we're gonna just dump this back in there with the rest of our ingredients. Now, the miso is really, not really salty, but it adds a little bit of that salt to it, which is another thing that we need to talk about of adding salt in. I think if you kind of properly season it, it doesn't need a significant amount of salt, but I think it maybe needs a tiny bit of salt, which is probably, it probably would have been better to put this in before while it was boiling, but I totally forgot, so we're just gonna throw it in now. So we have this going. We are going to stir this in with my spoon that I just dumped in there. Let it warm up, let it do its little thing right here. Honestly, you could probably just dump it right in the pot too. I don't think it matters that much. But it's just making it easier to stir and get it all unchunky before we dump it in. The other thing you're gonna do right here is just put a little bit of marjoram in. You can probably use oregano. I'm gonna use marjoram. Just not a ton, maybe like a teaspoon. And then maybe about a teaspoon of nutritional yeast as well. This is, most of the recipes that I'm gonna make on this channel are plant-based or vegan. I was vegan for about 2 years of my life. Pretty hardcore, like I didn't really ever cheat. But now I'm a cheegan, a freegan, whatever you want to call it. I cheat. But whenever I cook mainly vegan because that's just kind of what I'm used to. But I'm not opposed. If you guys have recipes that you think would be good, that you want me to try, and that would test my cooking abilities, I'm all for it. So all we're gonna do is mix that up, dump it back in. And I use these little deli containers because they're great, and I hate Tupperware. With everything in me, I hate Tupperware. I would rather do anything than use a Tupperware container. So that's why I have those little deli lid containers. They all just are way stackable. They all just sit up there. I don't really throw them out. Sometimes I throw them out if one gets real nasty and crusty. But they're so much better than Tupperware. So people start using deli food containers. I don't know what they're exactly called, but they're great. So great. So we finish our marjoram, we finish our nutritional yeast. I'm gonna let that just sit on there for another 5 minutes, just so all the flavors kind of mesh. Just dump the salt and the miso back in there. And then all we're gonna do is just top it off with some parsley. And we got ourselves a meal. I keep dumping my knife into this sink. I gotta learn. When am I ever gonna learn? We don't want that much parsley. Just gonna take maybe a tablespoon of parsley. This is probably gonna be more than a tablespoon of parsley, but that's okay. Yeah, this is way more than a tablespoon of parsley, but I can grate it up to be about a tablespoon. Or mince it. Again, what are all the chopping terms? What am I missing for the chopping terms here? Yeah, this is significantly more than a tablespoon. That's all right though. I like parsley. I was raised on Italian food. Some nice Italian parsley is perfect. So we're gonna dump a lot of parsley in there. It kind of like garnishes it too. More like a garnish than anything else. This is our soup. That's pretty much it. We're gonna taste it, see how good this little sucker is, and then we'll see. What should we do? We should rank all the things that we eat. I need a ladle. That is one thing that I need that I don't have. You know what I use for a ladle? Measuring cup. Where's my measuring cup? Right here. That's why I have this out. Because this is what I use for a ladle. I'm gonna pop my, what do you call these things? What are those things called again? Bay leaves, wow. totally blanked. Just gonna take this and ladle it in. This is not my garbage bowl. I had another bowl that's just like it that I picked out. My garbage bowl is in the sink, so don't worry. If you're thinking that's disgusting, he's using his garbage bowl to put his soup into. You're dead wrong. Although I wouldn't probably have a problem with that either. That's not that crazy. And this is what we have. Our nice, beautiful, more like a stew than a soup. But let's taste it. Let's taste this little sucker. Let's see what it needs, if it needs anything. I want to get a sweet potato in there. Nice, there we go. A little bit of kale. I see a little parsley, a little onion. We got everything in this bite. I'm also a big weenie when it comes to really hot things. I need to let it cool. So I'm gonna just blow on this for a minute so it cools, so I can actually taste it. It's not bad. It needs more salt. It needs more miso. And this is the one issue that I have. I just have to let the cannellini beans soak overnight. I put the rest of them in water over there. So I'm gonna actually just leave this for tomorrow because the cannellini beans need to soften a little bit more. I boiled them for about 2 minutes and just left them in water for like an hour, which is what you're supposed to do, but they're still a little bit hard, which is why I think it's just so much easier to just use canned. But am I totally wrong? Are canned not as good as, like, should I not be using canned rather than like dried beans that I just undry, that I reinvigorate? What would the word be? I don't know. I don't know what I should do for that. But thanks for joining me on this little journey. Let me know in the comments below what else I should cook and any other tips or tricks that you have for me to make this soup better. What do you think I could add into the soup that would significantly increase the taste? Because it's tasty, but it's not like, it's not the most mind-blowing thing that I've ever had in my life. And I've definitely made it better in years past. But this is my first one, so it is what it is, Did as best as we could. So thanks for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.